Welcome everyone to this new edition of Ask Me Anything. In this opportunity, we're going to be talking about industrial markers. And we're very pleased to have with us today Jorge Barbosa, who is the sales representative for Leico Industries. So Jorge is an industrial engineer who has 18 years of experience in the gas and oil industry, which was the starting point. And after that, he was running tools on the drilling wells, and he has spent some years in there in oil service companies. After that, he started to manage the accounts of oil operators in the Andes countries, which are Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, and Ecuador. And 4 years ago, he joined the Leico Industries, and nowadays is the sales representative for the Latin American region. So welcome, Jorge. We're expecting to have all our questions related to industrial markets answered today. So before we get started, can you please give us a clue how's this the Leico landscape? We're seeing the Leico logo, the Marcal logo. So can you elaborate a little bit, please, on your whole bunch of brands?
Yes, of course, Nathan. So thank you very much for this invite. Thank you for this invite to the Codinter webinars. So yes, first of all, Leico Industries is a marking tool and chemical manufacturing company. We actually have 87 years of innovation. And yes, the three product lines from Leico Industries are Marcal, Tempio, and Leico. So the Marcal brand is everything about the industrial marking, and the Temple brand is all about welding and temperature indicators. And the third brand is Leico, that is all about plumbing. So actually, the Leico Industries is the main company, and these three are the product lines.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So let's get started with the questions, right?
Yeah, of course.
A few ones that we have received for a few days. But in any case, if you want to ask something today, this is your opportunity to do so. So you can use the chat. It's one of the buttons in there, and just write down your questions. Or if you prefer, you can raise your hand in video or virtual hand, and you can ask the question that you might have. Nevertheless, we have some questions that in advance some user has sent to our own email. So here it goes. The first one is, what is the difference between industrial markers and office markers?
Perfect. So actually, the main difference between the industrial markers and the markers from the office supply are that the markers from the office supply, Jonathan, are not designed for industrial use. Actually, the industrial markers take into account that type of surface. This means if it is metal, concrete, plastic, or glass. Also, it takes into account the conditions, if it's oily, wet surface, rust, or high temperatures. Actually, the durability, if it's UV resistance, also the adverse weather conditions. And the most important thing is the special requirements that we have with the industrial markers. This means that, for example, all of the industrial markers comes with the safety data sheet or the SDS sheet, and some of them have the certifications from the third-party labs. So this is the main difference between the office supply markers and the industrial markers.
Makes complete sense. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Now, I understand that not every industrial marker has been created equal, right? So the second question is, what types of industrial markers are out there?
So actually, there are three types of markers in the market. The first one is the liquid paint markers, the solid paint markers, and the ink markers. So there is three.
Wonderful. Can you elaborate a little bit? For example, for some people might be a little confused in this about liquid or solid paint. So what's the difference between these two markers?
Yeah, so actually the liquid paint markers are the one that you can see that have a bulb action. So the paint is in a liquid presentation, right? The solid paint marker is a kind of a crayon, and the paint is solid. And the third one is the ink marker that actually it came with ink. So that's the main bit. So we can tell about the difference between the paint markers and the ink markers, right?
Understood. Perfect. Now, when are used each one of them? This is the the following question that we have here. So both the paint markers and the ink markers, when is each one of them should be used?
Exactly. So usually the paint markers are used in the non-porous surfaces, right? These non-porous surfaces are metal, glass, and plastic. The great advantage of the paint markers are the durability of the mark and the color intensity, right? When we are dealing with the porous surface like paper, cardboard, the the the, the best options are the ink markers, right? What is the advantage of the ink markers in these surfaces? Actually, that are quick drying and they are very easy to use.
Understood. Thank you for your answer. Well, following that, the following question is, are there any markers that have the same definition as correction pens, but longer lasting and better performing?
Yes, so actually, when you use, when Jonathan, when you use or when the end users can get availability of the industrial markers, they used to go with the office supply. And the office supply can offer these liquid correction markers or the liquid or the paper, the liquid paper, right? This is the brand of this correction liquid pen marker. So actually, Leico or Markel, we actually offer a white pen marker that can actually substitute this office supply marker with an industrial grade marker.
Gotcha. That's very good. Very smart. Okay. Now, the following question is, who are the end users of industrial markers?
Jonathan, so actually, if you see, and in our last questions about who are the end users of the industrial markers, actually 90% of all industrial jobs use a type of marker and it's part of their work, right? So you can see that if 90% of the people or the end users use it, we can say that every industry use the paint markers or the industrial markers. This can be manufacturing. Manufacturing use the markers for all applications, such as production, quality control, warehousing, logistics, MRO, and actually, of course, metal fabrication, right? The markers are necessary for different processes, including the traceability of the raw material and finished product, right? So this is the main industries, but we can say that automotive, right? Oil and gas, lumber mills, and metal fabrication and welding.
Understood. Wow, it's quite broad. Just
Yes.
ability. All right. Now, if you have to choose, let's see. You mentioned three among the top users of industrial marker, but if you have to choose one, which industry is the one who is more interested in industrial markets and why?
So Jonathan, I can say that I can state that actually all industries consume a very high volume, but if I have to choose one, I can say that the automotive industry could be considered one of the largest consumers and high volume of these industrial markers, right? So actually during the manufacturing of all the automotive parts, right? And the final assembly of the cars, we use the industrial markers for the quality marks or indicators, right? So let me show you and let me share a presentation or a slide so I can show you where we use the industrial markers in the automotive. So in this slide, Jonathan, I'm actually showing the automotive tier suppliers and how they use the industrial markers in their process, right? So actually the paint marks observed on the engine, hoses, and other parts of the cars, they are check or inspections marks. So for example, here you can see an example of the marks in the engine, the marks in the seats, the marks in the brakes, and the marks in the transmission system, right? So actually these marks are part of the quality control process that in every plant they use enable to comply with the quality process, right? So so we have an approximate of between 250 and 450 witness marks on every car and light truck manufactured in the world, right? So as you can see, this sector and this industry is a very high volume consumer of the industrial markers.
Wow, that's impressive. 200 to 450.
Exactly.
Wow. So that's a lot of markers in there.
That's a lot of markers, yeah.
And that little spots in the engine, oh, that explains how much in my own car.
Mhm.
All right. So that is important. So there's a lot of possibilities when we're talking about industrial markers, right?
Right, yeah.
Now, a question that can be like linked to that one is things, the surfaces can be very different from one each other. Like you were showing there, the seats, the engines, the pads, the brake pads, in which are quite different. One is metal, another is cloth, the other is something that is kind of rust. So probably you cannot use the same marking on each one of them, right?
Right, exactly. So we actually have more than 1,200 SKUs and products in our portfolio, right? So as you mentioned earlier, we have a different product and a different marker that depends on the application. So again, let me show you some slides that we can share with all the team to see what are the different markers that we have and the main applications, okay? Perfect. So here, Jonathan, I'm showing the applications, the different applications and the different products that we have, right? So for example, here we have the Paint Writer oily surface. So this actually is especially designed for marking in an oily surface, right? The Paint Writer rough surface, that is the XT, that is designed for rusty, rough, and dirty surfaces, right? And this one, for example, the Paint Writer wet surface, that is designed for the wet. So actually, each pen or each marking tool is designed with a different need and different type of paints, right? And these different formulas depends on the application, right? We can, let me get another slide here. This is slide number 2, where we have here actually the Paint Writer UV or ultraviolet. This is only visible with UV light, right? Then we have the Paint Writer water removable. That is actually the paint that is just be removable with water. And the last one here that I can show you is the Pro Line Fine, that is have a fine mark of 1.5 millimeters. So this is just an example. This is just 6 of the more than 1,200 SKUs that Leico and Marco has to offer to the end user.
Wonderful. So many follow-up questions here with all that you have shown here. So one question, one follow-up question is that one that is ultraviolet light. What's the application for that one?
So the main application that we are seeing with this UV light actually are the car manufacturings, right? That these brands as Ford, Volkswagen, right? When they want these marks in the engines and some parts of the automotive or the cars, that they doesn't want to have this bright mark, right? So they use it, right? And they know that it has a quality check. So if there is a warranty, if there is a warranty, they can go back, they put the UV lens and the UV light, and they can check if it was pre-checked or not. So that's like the main use that we are having with the UV light marker.
That's awesome. It's impressive. Now, what if quality check has several steps, right? So some different people in the middle. So how do you handle the different colors? For example, how many colors are offered on each single marker?
So this is very important, Jonathan, because actually, as you mentioned, we have different process, and most of our end user has different product lines. So in our main products, as the bulb action paint marker, we actually have more than 18 colors in each reference, right? So with these 18 colors, our end users can be sure that they have a differentiation in their process and the quality checks.
Perfect. That sounds very nice.
Mhm.
18 colors. Well, the next
Exactly.
question that we have here is a little daring. Are there any markers that can be used over the skin that resist water and oil for medical applications?
Okay, so actually it's not recommended to use these industrial markers under the skin. We have to take into account that actually these markers are very safe. And the most important thing, for example, Jonathan, is that Leico Industries and Marcal never use xylene. Xylene is a solvent that is that actually is not is being canceled, right? In some of the states in the US, for example, California. So is this xylene content is being banned in some of the factories, right? So nevertheless, we doesn't use xylene as a solvent. We do not recommend to mark our skin with the industrial markers.
It's very normal. I mean, I don't think even the office markers can help you for that.
Exactly, yes. And actually, Jonathan, some of the office supply and home use markers actually do contain xylene.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that is nuts. All
Mhm.
right. Well, so in any case, it's better to use an industrial marker for whatever uses you might need
Exactly. Yeah.
to that person. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. The next question is, where can I see the catalog online?
Okay, so actually, after this webinar with Codinter, we're gonna share these links in our page, right? Actually, you can go to marcal.com, but in the Codinter page, we're gonna share all of our catalogs, and these catalogs are gonna be by product line, right? By Marcal, by Temple, and by Leico.
Perfect. Just, I'm not sure that we mentioned very clearly what LACO alone is meant to.
Yeah, of course. So, Jonathan, let me share some other last slide so I can show you the three product lines. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, Leico Industries is a marking tool and chemical manufacturing company. We have more than 87 years of innovation. 90% of our markers are made in the US, Jonathan, and this is very, very important because actually with all the countries in LATAM, for example, that the US have uh, uh, a free trade agreement, the FTAs, as for example, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and of course, Mexico. Our markers are under the category that it doesn't have to pay any extra duties to get the product in country, right? So 90% of these markers are made in the US. We have a plant in Chicago. We have a second plant located in France, and we have more than 1,200 SKUs, right? So here in this slide, I can show you that we have the main product lines, the Markel, and we have here the Nissan by Markel. Nissan was another brand that it is a great brand, but actually Markel merged with Nissan a couple of years ago. This is everything about industrial marking. We have the Temple. The Temple, we can consider this product line as a welding line, but actually we use all the products under the Temple product lines are about temperature indicators. And the third product line, that is Leico, is all about plumbing and chemicals.
Now it's better understood. Thank you for that
You're
explanation.
welcome. Mhm.
Yes. And now, what about the markers? Can be used, for example, any marker for high temperature pipes, like where when they were welding these pipes and they were uh, on the outdoors and they're high temperatures, or these kind of things are inside of the industries and they remain in high temperatures. Is there any marker that can be useful for that?
Yes, Jonathan, actually we have one of our products, or we have two products that actually can apply in this application, right? First, we have a paint marker that if you mark the surface can withstand over 1800 Fahrenheit or almost 982 Celsius of heat, and the mark will not erase, right? This is one of the applications with the paint markers. And we have another application that actually we have to use a solid paint marker that actually can mark a surface that is actually in that temperature, over 1200 Fahrenheit or more, right? So we have two different applications. So that's why, Jonathan, is very important when our end user has that application to get to us with the sales representative of Codinter and all the technical support from Marcal and Leico to see what is the specific application and what is the specific product that can help them to improve their production times.
Thank you. And another following up question with that, is there any idea of the consumption of the markers? Like for a person, maybe a person, an overseer who is running a, let's say 100 operators plant. And do you have any idea how many markers they might consume in a month?
Yes, so actually, as we mentioned earlier, Jonathan, the automotive industry is one of the high volume consumers. And actually we have end users, unique end users in one location that can actually consume up between 20 and 100,000 markers in a year, right? So this is a very high volume and a consumable, right? So yes, it's impressive how many markers just one location can consume every day, each month, and every year, right? And Jonathan, this is very, very important because actually I have been talking with the end users, right, and the plant supervisors, and they tell me, Jorge, your marker is almost very important as a tire, because if I don't have your markers here in the production line, I have to stop all the factory because this is part of the quality process, right? So this means that our markers are actually very, very important as a tire or as a wheel, right?
Yes, and while you sell one equipment once, and maybe you have to have quite a few years to get it to.
Exactly. This is a message for all the sales reps that are seeing us right now, and this is just a first sale, and then it's gonna be recursive, right?
Right. Perfect. Very good. Now you told us that the markers are manufactured here in the U.S. So what about the supply chain? I know that there was a lot of disruptions after the COVID started and so on. So what about your supply chain for any industrial overseer who wants to make sure that Markel is going to be a steady supplier?
Jonathan, so we have the first advantage of Leico Industries and Markel is that all these products are made, or 90% of these products are made in our plant in Chicago, right? So this with all these supply chain the disruptions that we got in the pandemic, we didn't have any problem with that, right? And this was very important. And actually, if we compare this with other brands that actually came from Asia, we didn't have any problems with the supply chain. So this was first priority for our end users. And our plant did a very good job to maintain all the production.
That sounds very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Now it also is 90%, where the other 10% is made.
Is made in France, in our second location.
Oh, okay. Very good. Maybe when we get some European clients.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is there any difference between the European product and the American product?
No, actually, there is no difference. There is some SKUs that are made in our location plant in France, and there are some SKUs that are made locally in Chicago.
Okay, so probably I could get one marker who is made in France, and it's normally the only place where that marker is made.
Yeah, exactly. But as I just mentioned, 90% of all the portfolio from Leico is made locally in the US.
That sounds very good. Perfect. Now, we already talked about the difference between your markers, industrial markers, and the office markers. But when you're compared to other brands who also maybe manufacturing industrial markers, what would you say is your unique selling proposition?
Jonathan, so our unique selling proposition from Leico Industries first is experience, right? We have almost 87 years of innovation and experience in just marking products and marking applications, right? Then of course, these 87 years of experience gave us all the best performance in our products, right? And this great performance is giving us safety, right? All the chemicals, all the products made in the US, all the formulation give us that all of our products are quality check. Also, sometimes if the end user needed, can be certified by a third party lab, right? So the experience and the performance give us safety, and I can say that actually all the supply chain and choosing, because Leico never sells directly to the end user. We choose the best distribution parties and partners, and in this case, Codinter is the one that we actually partnered together to give the best application and the best support for the end user.
Well, we appreciate your kind words. Now, before we talk, you told us about you have 1,200 different references in your catalog, but if you had to choose a bestseller or maybe a top 10, which one would be?
So our bestseller is the paint marker that is called Paint Writer Valve Action marker. Let me show you if I have here. So this is the different product lines of the industrial markers. We have the liquid paint markers, the solid paint markers, the grease markers, the ink markers, and the lumber markers, right? So we can say that here, this paint writer, this bulb action paint marker is the #1 selling product, right? We have the different ones that we just mentioned, that is the oily surface, the rough surface, but the main one, the general purpose marker, is the bulb action paint marker. This is the #1. And the #2, I can say that is the solid paint marker. Actually, the company started with this solid paint marker. This is kind of a crayon. This is the #2 selling marker or product in our portfolio.
That sounds good. And all these 5 groups that we're seeing in the screen are the 5 top product lines that you have, or you have more product lines?
So actually, we divide our product lines. So this is the marked product line, right? And we divide our products by liquid paint markers, solid paint markers. These grease markers, we can call them general marking products. The ink markers, right? And the lumber. So yeah, this is the different product lines that we have under marked product line.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, it looks like we reached the end of our questions for today. So, and today we have been only speaking about industrial markers, but Leico, as Jorge was explaining us, it includes also the Tempil line and also the Leico Industries, which is more to plumbing and related and so on. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to have more webinars like this to ask you, Jorge, everything that comes up to mind.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay. We appreciate very much having you here. And of course, all of you attending today. This very video is going to be posted in our YouTube video channel very soon, and also in our website. But also, we want to invite you to our next virtual event, which is going to take place in July 19 and 20. And the topic is going to be robotic welding. The title is The Week of the Robotic Welding. So I'm pretty sure that all of you are going to enjoy being there. So please save the date, July 19 and 20. Well, thank you very much again, Jorge, for being with us today. And thank you all of you. Have a good evening and enjoy your day.